Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golick look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Golick and Wingo with you on a Tuesday morning. Glad you're with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN News as Australian Open coverage continues on ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We got a lot to get into, and we'll get into it all because this hour of Golick and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. And, Mike, we were talking in the last hour, in the last segment, about Bud Light having the back of Lane Johnson. The right tackle, all-pro for the Eagles, said if we have a couple of big years and win a Super Bowl, I'll buy beer for everybody.
Buy beer for everybody.
So he said a beer. We made it beers.
Yeah, we made it. Who drinks a beer?
People that I don't hang out with.
Yeah, got to be multiple. So Bud Light jumped in and said, hey, you win the Super Bowl, beer's on us.
We have a plan. We're not going to announce it before the game because they don't want to be presumptuous. So we actually put our researcher, Brett, to work on this. And Brett, I may have been a little over the top thinking the average Eagles fan probably drinks 37 beers a day.
Probably a little much.
Maybe on game day. That's how they roll.
They start early in Philly, too.
Well, as we saw, some people were actually arrested getting into a fight with riot police on horses before the game started. I mean, that did happen.
Yes, it did.
So you broke down some numbers on what we might be looking at in terms of total beer consumed.
Okay,
so
right.
What do you got?
You got 1.568 million people in Philly.
Okay.
Right.
Now, for the game, the amount of TVs that were on the game were 50%.
So basically half the city was watching the game.
Half the city was watching.
But do you have to be watching the game to qualify for the free beer?
Well, you have to knock off the 30% that are under 21.
Okay, that's fair.
So
probably
that's
a good idea.
49,000.
Okay.
Now you also have to knock off the 20% of people who just don't drink for whatever reason.
I don't know those people, but okay.
So now you're at
really there's 20% of those people?
439,040 people
okay.
You're getting a beer for. And if you do that in the 30 beer cases, then you're looking at 14,635 cases of beer.
Okay. Well, what about the statistic of pregnant women who are Eagles fans?
There's a lot of those, I'm sure. But
Brett, come on, this is your job. You got to crunch these numbers. You got to know all these variables.
I think most doctors say that you can have a beer when you're
not
pregnant.
37.
Not 37.
Yeah, not 37.
No, but one to celebrate. They're saying now is okay.
Yeah, dilly, right?
Okay, all right. See,
so basically,
Brett now doing science apparently, which I did not know in biology.
You're basically
really
saying it'll be a lot.
It will be a lot.
Okay. There you go.
So Bud Light is on the hook for a lot.
A lot of beer.
Should it happen. Look, how it plays out, but if it does play out that the Eagles win.
I can't wait to see how they distribute it.
I want to see them out. And I know my friends at Bud Light will do it right.
Yeah.
They will absolutely do it right. You know what we're going to do right?
What?
What's trending? This is important. Okay, we start with this one. And can anybody get along in Cleveland right now?
Yeah, it seems off the Saturday night game for Cleveland that Kevin Love left sick and left the arena and wasn't at practice on Sunday. There seemed to be a team meeting with the focus on, hey, what's the deal? Right. Management was in there, coaches were in there, and once Kevin Love kind of explained the situation, people were a little more understanding to it. But boy, oh boy, I guess my thought is with all this going on, that's where we're going. That's going to be the focus of a meeting with all the problems they have about, quite honestly, let's look in the mirror at how y'all are playing defense out there, because it ain't all on X's and O's, gang. No. It's all about effort a little bit. You know, it's what may happen toward the end of the season if they can right this ship at all, and just how much do they miss Kyrie Irving and how much they're going to need Kevin Love if they're going to make this run. So I know you got to air things out. And for a season like this, normally in January for the Cavaliers, you know, you're going to have some team meetings because there are going to be some things wrong. There are those, I think you're one of them, Trey, that think there's a little more than normal this year and they're not going to be able to bounce back. And quite honestly, the biggest thing is the Kyrie for Isaiah Thomas. Now, Isaiah Thomas, we don't have the full spectrum of his offense just yet, but we do know he's not giving you a lot on defense, never has, never is going to.
Look, what was the matchup we talked about last year and when they met in the Eastern Conference Finals? Even though that the Celtics were the number one seed last year, it was hey, look, man, who are we taking in a one-on-one showdown to make stops? Is it going to be Kyrie Irving making stops on Isaiah Thomas, or Isaiah Thomas making stops on Kyrie Irving? We saw how that played out.
Yes, we did.
And look, Isaiah Thomas is a great player, and he's unbelievable for what he can do, but there are things he simply cannot do. And the defense, to me, the defensive problems are the bigger issue for the Cavs right now. My gosh, they score 124 and they lose by 24?
Yeah.
That's almost statistically impossible.
I'm actually the other way because they've had these defensive issues last year.
They had Kyrie.
They got a little better in the playoffs, but one thing they need, you have to offset a bad by having a good. You don't offset a bad. Like I said, I can't be slow and weak. Yeah. If I'm slow, I better be strong. Or if I'm weak, I better be fast. They're not playing defense well and they're not playing offense well. So and what can change quicker for them, I think, is their offensive efficiency. So we'll see. That
can change. Look, they can get heated up, but eventually in the playoffs, what have we talked about with Boston all year long? How great they are defensively.
And
even the Warriors, as good as they are offensively, when it comes to the postseason, you're not going to get those same kind of numbers that you do offensively in the regular season. So that defense at some point has got to kick it up like 3 or 4 notches for the Cavs. And we had Adrian Wojnarowski in here earlier, and he had some similar concerns. He says, we do this every year, but this one, it feels different. Well, it feels different now for Jason Kidd as he's looking for work. The Milwaukee Bucks fired him yesterday, but more interesting maybe, Jason says Giannis Antetokounmpo was the one that gave him the heads up he was being fired.
Listen, this day and age, the firings just don't happen the way they should be. Face to face, not texting, not on Twitter, not by phone, quite honestly. If you can help it, it should be a face to face, or at least it should be ownership telling that coach that he's fired. But we know in this day and age, a lot has changed there. So to me, the bigger question is what goes on in Milwaukee. Jabari Parker has not played at all this season. He and Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton haven't been played a minute together in the last 2 seasons. They seem to have that young talent there. Can they build around it? Will those guys be there to build around it? Or will it be a Minnesota team? Or will it be a New Orleans team that gets built around? But there's a lot of talent there. And Woj said this is going to be the job in the offseason that everybody is going to covet because of the talent, especially the Greek Freak, that they're going to want to be the head coach of that team.
And, quite frankly, it's nice to see a city like Milwaukee that will be coveted like this.
Well, that's why I asked about Milwaukee, Minnesota, New Orleans, new blood.
Right.
Is there going to be one of these teams, not just be built up to a superstar level and then that person ends up somewhere else? Will people go, other free agents
destination.
Go to those teams? It's exactly right. So time will tell.
Well, look, when you have a guy with a skill set and as young as Giannis is, that makes things very attractive for a lot of different reasons. And for the Giants, offensive coordinator of the Vikings, Pat Shurmur, was the most attractive guy, as they have named him their new head coach.
Yeah, Shurmur, there was a thought he might be going to Arizona, and if he went there, he'd maybe take Case Keenum with him. Case Keenum's not going to New York. That's going to be Eli, the quarterback there, and now with the number 2 pick, all signs pointing toward getting a quarterback there, a young quarterback to groom to be the next one after Eli. So looks like there, again, the reports Jack Del Rio maybe being the defensive coordinator, but how will Shurmur handle the personnel there? They had some issues in that locker room, no doubt about it. So you have to come in and set the tone. He's had head coaching experience with the Cleveland Browns, and now obviously the offensive coordinator with the Vikings. So can he go in there and right that ship, not only on the field, X's and O's wise, and the talent they bring in, but get the players to play, all pull on the rope the same way, nobody be that weak link. We'll have to wait and see on that. And then, of course, Steve Wilks, the D coordinator from the Carolina Panthers, he was named the Arizona Cardinal head coach. And of all the coaching jobs out there, Giants have a quarterback.
Right.
It looks like Matt Patricia
going to get a quarterback as well.
Right. Yeah. Matt Patricia looks like he's going to the Lions. They have a quarterback.
Right.
Josh McDaniels going to the Colts. It looks like they have a quarterback.
His name is Andrew Luck.
Arizona doesn't. So how do they build? Steve Wilks, I'm sure that's going to be the first thing he's asked. How are we getting our next quarterback? Is it by the draft? Is it by free agency in the offseason? Which direction are we going to go?
And quickly back to Shurmur, Adam Schefter reporting that it's a 5-year contract. Why is that significant? Well, in the NFL, the way the contracts are set up in the NFLPA and the NFL with a collective bargaining agreement, a first-round pick, you can keep him for 5 years or you really have to pay him. And with that second overall pick, you have to believe they're going to pick their quarterback in the future after Eli Manning. All right, we have been building up to this part of the show all day, and I'm excited about this just because I know that I don't think he could be any happier than he is today. Adnan Virk joins us. He does. I'm not sure what he doesn't do for the ESPN family of networks, whether it's college football, college basketball, baseball tonight. Also, his podcast, The Cinephile, the Adnan Virk Movie Podcast, joins us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts, on the Oscar noms that are going in.
Yes.
And I have to say, I was watching behind the glass where Adnan was, but we were going through what's trending. He came running in from somewhere. He's sweating buckets.
Yeah.
He's shrugging. Where were you that you hauled butt over to get here so fast?
I had to get my kids to school first,
Okay.
and then I'm normally not in this morning at this time of day, so there's a traffic issue. And Dan had said 9:05 tight. I said, listen, this is the biggest sports talk radio show in the country. Everyone wants to talk NFL, and you're generous enough to squeeze me in for some Oscar nomination. I said, 9:05, you missed this 9:05. When you'll go, say you're done. Now, first and foremost, the show's been great.
Yeah.
You can't come and be a guest without bringing a gift. So, red beans and rice mix. Which
You bought us.
It's not quite red beans and rice as if I made it.
Yeah.
But when I was in New Orleans recently for the Sugar Bowl, I said, you guys like food, so I have a red beans and rice mix.
How long you known me, Adnan?
6 years
How
now.
long you done the show with me?
About 6 years.
Ever seen me eat red beans and rice in the morning? I know. You know.
At some point, you can prepare.
How about just a beignet or
You know what
a
I've eaten a
donut?
lot of?
Yeah.
Tim Hortons. All right.
Yeah, but
Where are
I should
those?
back them across the board.
Are
Here goes
you
Liz.
kidding me?
This is the most feeble gift anyone has ever brought
Terrific.
to the Gulch and Wingo
It's the
set.
thought that counts, and that's all that matters, Adnan.
One
I
thought
think
to you,
it's-
Trey, before we get rolling the nominations. The last time I saw you, you said, I really want to see Downsizing. And I said, yeah, I love Alexander Payne.
Yeah.
You didn't see it, did you?
I have not seen it yet.
It's horrific. It's one of the worst movies
So
of the
don't
year.
see
I'm
it.
so
I've got to see it.
disappointed.
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
wanted to see it.
He's one of
disappointed.
my
in that.
favorite writer directors. Sideways,
Yes.
About Schmidt, Election. Obviously, Damon's very funny. It's awful. It's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and it goes in a wild direction.
Why do you think it missed so badly?
You know, I think sometimes with these directors,
Christoph Waltz is in it, for God's sake.
and he's awful in it, and I love him, but he could be more arrogant and preening and dislikable as a character. The story, for those who haven't seen it, Downsizing is about Matt Damon and his wife Kristen Wiig decide to become literally 6 inches tall.
Right.
Help with overpopulation. So it's one of these satirical science fiction theaters. And, you know, it's funny, it's sweet, and the first 3 minutes is fine. But then after that,
First 3 minutes?
yeah. And then
What
after
about the
that,
other 98?
yeah, and you go, isn't this supposed to be a comedy? And especially if you've seen the trailer, you'd think it's something funny.
Oh,
light.
it's
Instead,
not.
It's very serious,
Oh, I
and very
hate that.
heavy-handed, and it's about the world and what's happening.
Oh,
and
they
you go,
lull
oh,
you
no.
in by making
and
you
go,
think
no,
it's a
no, I don't
comedy.
exactly.
They,
No.
they went bait and switch on you.
They went absolutely.
No.
I'd rather go see Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Listen, before we get into this stuff, we got to relive a little bit
Yeah.
because Trey took a shot with the asteroid coming towards Earth here.
Yes,
I
2.6 million miles. It's just going to miss us.
I naturally brought up the greatest space movie of all time in Armageddon.
I thought you were saying Spaceballs. I was so
No, we need to send
May the Schwartz be with
Yes.
you. We need to send the
Barf.
real Harry Stamper up there to blow up
Bartholomew.
this asteroid. Just
John Candy.
So you are the movie guy. Just
Yeah.
tell everybody how great of a movie Armageddon is.
No, I'm with Trey on this one. I don't. I think that movie's terrible. I think that 9:05 came quickly. Burke's out.
All right, Adnan, thanks very much. We appreciate it. So I'm glad we got that settled.
No. Did you email that to me, Brett? Just say it. What, give me some.
I'm saying so. Armageddon 4 Oscar nominations.
4 Oscar nominations.
Okay,
Yes,
but it was not in a major
All right, so
category.
you know what got
Go
4
ahead,
Oscar
Brett.
nominations this year? Call
I
Me
don't
by
know
Your
if you have
Name,
to
which
repeat
might win
myself.
Best Picture.
Yeah. There's so many other.
You know what? It might, but it won't.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about that. By the way, here's why maybe, Mike, you have a point that it's not maybe best that Adnan sided with me. You ready?
Moonlight won Best Picture.
Yeah. Moonlight won.
That was Adnan screaming,
Yeah.
Moonlight won Best Picture! Moonlight won Best Picture!
Trey, you dream of being a sportscaster, and one day you're known for yelling "Moonlight won Best Picture." This is the life I dream.
I'm going into this with a sour attitude because the greatest space movie of all time has been ripped apart.
What,
All right, never mind.
Gravity?
No.
With a fire
Gravity.
extinguisher got her around? Gravity.
Sandra Bullock.
All right, let's try and focus.
All right,
we
sure.
got to focus. So the noms are out.
Yeah.
And we got here are the Best Picture nominations.
Sure.
Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, which by the way got a ton of major nominations.
Yes.
Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
What did they nominate every picture that came out? I mean,
So yeah,
seriously?
10. They
So
used to do 5, but now they want people 10 5 to 10 because they want more people to watch.
More inclusive, because in the past, Get Out wouldn't have made it. You know what it is, Mike? It's the Dark Knight rules. Because the Dark Knight didn't make it, and they go, this is hypocrisy. Like, we love the fact the Academy loves these.
Okay, so let's get some
open up a little bit.
I can go there.
Now, of those 10, so it's one of the most wide-open races in years, guys. So what's going to win Best Picture? Now, 3 Billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri has a lot of momentum. That won the SAG Award Ensemble, won the Golden Globe Best Picture, but it's very polarizing. Either of you have seen it or no?
I have not heard.
We may go see it tonight, actually.
Okay. Heard it was very good.
Definitely have to see it, but it's ferocious is the best word for it. It's about a woman, Frances McDormand, who is grieving the rape and murder of her daughter, and then she's trying to get the attention of the local police sheriff named Woody Harrelson, who surprisingly got nominated for supporting actor, which is great. And Sam Rockwell is the character with which the whole story changes. He's a racist, vile character, and yet he goes this journey that either you go with it and say this is an amazing movie, or you say I just can't really go along with this theory that this guy's all right. But I thought it was brilliant. It's wonderfully written. If you liked In Bruges, it's the same guy, Martin McDonagh, who wrote it.
I loved In Bruges.
Great script.
And by the way, Colin Farrell has the greatest gift shrug of all time from In Bruges. I think In Bruges is one of my favorite movies. So if I like In Bruges,
you're going to love it, Trey.
What do you think wins here then?
But I think, Mike, Lady Bird is going to win, and I'll explain why.
I liked Lady Bird.
I've not seen it.
I enjoyed it.
I'll tell you why. I think that what happens with the ballot is you got to rank it 1 through 10. So the people like me, the cinephiles, really love a movie like Phantom Thread, Daniel Day-Lewis's final movie, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Didn't he retire like 5 years ago?
No, he said this is it for me after they were done shooting, which P.T. Anderson said, maybe I had such a good time, I could never capture that again, or it was such a bad experience, I'm never doing that again. But that's his last movie. But people like me are going to love that. It feels like 1950s Hitchcock. It's a beautiful film. But Lady Bird, everybody who sees it either goes, I loved it, it reminded me of my mother-daughter relationship, or at worst, it was a really good movie. I preferred Shape of Water, or I preferred The Post, but it was really good. So I think when you total up the ballots cumulatively, just like in sports, I think Lady Bird ends up being the best picture. 3 Billboards, Shape of Water is wonderful, but it's weird. It's about a mute woman and a fish man. Like, I loved it, but
a mute woman and a fish man?
Yeah.
Not a fisherman, but a fish man.
A fish man, not a fisherman.
Right.
Like a merman.
Correct. And they fall in love, and it's very 1950s romantic, and it's sweet, and it's like, some people are going to love it, some people are going to go, I'm not going to watch a movie about a mute woman and a fish man.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with a big no on that one. Not gonna lie, Trey and I both did not like a movie you loved, and that's Dunkirk. Did not like it.
All right, yeah. Well, Seth Markman will not stop wearing me out about this. Yeah. By the way,
by the way, Seth and I saw this movie. We have a tradition every year when we go to the Hall of Fame. Yeah. We pick a movie to watch because we're in Canton, Ohio, and we got a long way to wait for the ceremony, so we go watch a movie. We watched Dunkirk at the movie, and I thought it was visually stunning and wonderful, but there was no development of any of the characters. I wanted to be invested in some of these people, and I didn't know which. Is it this guy? Is it that guy? What's going on here? I felt that was missing.
Nolan said he wanted to make a movie where it just started in the third act. I don't have to explain. Here's Jimmy and his mom, Bessie, and they run a corner store in London. This is just...
So no build-up.
You care about them because they're people. You care about them because they're basic humanity. You don't need to find out who they are.
That's the flaw in the ointment there. If everything is played out over human civilization.
Great score by Hans Zimmer.
Very good.
70% of the movie is scored really well. I want to mention a movie. I don't know if Mike saw it, but you and I generally agree with these types of movies. And we did see it. Logan. Which is, I thought it was one of the best movies of the year.
Everybody loved Logan.
Yes, I loved it.
I never saw any of the other Wolverine movies, so I thought if I missed it, maybe I wouldn't be able to catch up.
Right.
But people told me it's been really good.
You mentioned Get Out, Train. I'm glad that got in, because that's a major movie that people have seen, which is good. You can't watch the Oscars and go, okay,
who are these movies?
Who are these movies? You have to be inclusive. And I would have loved if Logan had got in.
I would agree with that.
So let's move on to Best Actor.
Sure. No Tom Hanks for The Post, which is a bit of a surprise.
I was surprised The Post got nominated for Best Picture.
Wasn't that good, right?
Right? I was a little heavy-handed.
Absolutely. I mean, it's preaching to that market. I mean, listen, if you're a journalist and a liberal and grew up in the 70s, all in. But I could just see the Trump crowd going, oh, great, so the journalists are the heroes again, blah, blah, blah. It's very sermonizing, and it's not the best work of Hanks. It's not the best work of Streep. It's not the best work of Spielberg. I thought it was very good and entertaining.
It's an important movie on a lot of levels, but I just wanted it to be better.
No question. That's a perfect way of describing it.
Is this Gary Oldman?
It's an absolute lock, and I've got to be honest with you. He's great, and he's excellent in the movie, but it's a bit of a snoozer.
I've seen the movie, and
Darkest Hour.
It's about, for those people that don't know, when he plays Winston Churchill, trying to decide whether or not, which is people that don't know history, whether or not London should make a deal with Germany, and so Germany can take over England.
I won't be seeing that
World
one
War
either.
II. Look, it's interesting. If you like history, it's very good. but I totally understand your point.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, there's not a lot of Armageddon scenes
No, there's not.
in Darkest Hour,
Yeah.
okay? So, Mike, it might not be your cup of tea.
A lot of old white guys in British accents for an hour 45.
And then that one diverse scene on the train, on the tube. There's that one diverse scene on the tube. I see what's going on here. I get what you guys are going
I'll
for.
sit down with the red beans and rice before I go ahead and watch that one.
So, in other words, there's no chance you're watching that movie.
So Goldman, you think there? How about
Goldman,
actress?
Yeah. Actress is going to be, I'd love to see, because Saoirse Ronan, this Lady Bird craze, and I love The Shape of Water Hawkins, but McDormand's a lock. Best performance since Fargo. She's ferocious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's
and that's
awesome.
for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Okay.
By the way, you've helped me with one of the things that I've dealt with for years.
Yeah.
Charisse? Is that what you said?
Oh, Saoirse.
Saoirse
No,
Ronan.
it's a tough one.
Saoirise.
Ask Dan Stanzik, our Irishman. He knows
I know.
Yeah, I did like that movie.
I would say, for you and Chris, and obviously with Sydney, you must have related to some
I
scenes to
really
that, too.
enjoyed that movie. So, as wrapping this up, which movie wins the most?
So I think it's going to be either 3 Billboards or Lady Bird. But, it's a new Oscars now. This is not going to be in the years past where Schindler's List would win 11 Oscars.
Right.
Now it's much more balanced. I think supporting actress is going to be either Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird or Alison Janney for I, Tonya. Speaking of sports fans, if you haven't seen I, Tonya yet, it's terrific.
Right.
I mean, if you think,
and she plays,
she plays the mom.
She's fantastic.
She steals the movie.
Yeah. And I heard the real mom is like, hey, no, that's not nowhere near like what I am.
Chain smoking, foul mouth, mom from hell. Janney's unbelievable. And obviously, sports fans, we all lived it. But Margot Robbie's brilliant, and she's nominated for actress. She's not going to win. But Janney, I think, maybe her or Metcalf. Supporting actor, I love Willem Dafoe. We had him on Cinephile. He's a great actor for a long time. But I think it's going to be Sam Rockwell for Billboards. So I think Billboards and Lady Bird will carry the day. So hopefully, Trey, you see it tonight.
The biggest snub there's going to be?
Well, James Franco for The Disaster Artist, because it's a really funny movie, and he's great in it. But once this story came out about sexual harassment allegations against him, that cost him his nomination.
All right, so Adnan Virk, Cinephile, the Adnan Virk Movie Podcast. Take a breath. You were awesome. You hauled butt in here to get this done.
You heading out there again?
I was going to say, I will be going to the Oscars again.
You're going to the Oscars one more time? So we'll hear more of this?
Moonlight won Best Picture!
We'll get the sequel to that.
No matter what, I'll say it. Even if it doesn't make any sense.
That is very, very good.
Thank you, fellas.
And just let me, real quickly, Brooklyn. Did you like Brooklyn?
I didn't. I thought it was terrible.
Okay, thank you. I went to
One
see
of the
this
most overrated movies in years.
with Saoirse, whatever her name is.
Again, the Irish,
Very good actress, but I was like, this movie is like, come on, go somewhere.
Do we need another story about Irish immigration?
I'll
watch Gangs of New York again. I'm good with that.
That one I'm good with.
Bill the Butcher.
There you
Amsterdam. On New York.
Cinephile, the Adnan Virk Movie Podcast. Thanks for hauling in here. This is a big day for you.
Go
Obviously,
Eagles.
Okay, there's that too.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, one of the best players in Eagles history who faced Tom Brady the last time these two teams met in the Super Bowl. Join us next.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more. Like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Golick and Wingo with you on this Tuesday morning on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And our next guest is not only a 4-time Pro Bowl linebacker, not only one of the biggest hitters of his generation when he was playing, he was also the captain of the Philadelphia Benjamins dodgeball team, and he led the league in big ball kills.
Yeah, what was his nickname?
The Axeman.
How about that?
Because that was his nickname when he played.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeremiah Trotter is with us. Jeremiah, before we get into the Eagles back in the Super Bowl, dude, dodgeball skills, much respect.
It was a lot of fun that I threw out my shoulder, man. After that experience, I had a newfound respect for pitchers.
For pitchers.
I mean, I was literally sidelined for like 3 or 4 games. I mean, it's tough, and the way those guys out there jumping and flipping and dodging, but it was a cool experience.
Well, that's because you were doing nothing but throwing fastballs.
Well, and
there was no off-speed pitch there, Jeremiah.
And much like the movie Dodgeball, did you practice by dodging wrenches? That would be the question.
No, I didn't practice. I practiced by dodging offensive linemen.
Because remember, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
That's exactly right.
There you go, man.
All right, go ahead.
I was throwing no-hitter quitters. I only know one speed, so.
That's it. That's all you can throw there, without a doubt. And I tell you what, from the football perspective to baseball, Philly got as close as you can to throwing a no-hitter against Minnesota, taking the top defense, and after being down 7-0, scoring the next 38 points. I mean, really an incredible performance. While it's not shocking that they won, how surprised were you, and what caught your eye about just winning that big?
Well, I just think obviously the big plays, defense came up with a big pick six that really jump-started the whole thing. And, never look back from there. And just the efficiency on the offensive side of the ball. I think only having maybe one penalty, maybe two, I think for like 15 yards. Those guys came out and executed in every fashion of the football game, almost flawlessly, somewhat the way New England did in the game. I know they struggled in the first half against a really good Jacksonville defense, but when you can keep the penalties down and keep those drives moving, sooner or later you're going to strike.
Jeremiah Trotter with us on Golic and Wingo. Of course, he was playing in Super Bowl 39 the last time the Patriots and Eagles met on Super Bowl Sunday. Hey, Jeremiah, just so people put it into some sort of perspective, the last time the Eagles and Patriots met in a Super Bowl, you were on the field, Super Bowl 39. You're now doing whatever it is you're doing, and Tom Brady is still playing at a high level. I mean, it's ridiculous when you talk about something that was 14 years ago.
It's crazy, man. People don't understand, what he's doing right now. But if there's any position you can do it in, it's at the quarterback position or maybe a kicker or a long snapper. So, obviously his body doesn't take the type of pounding, but to continue to play at that type of level, for this long is amazing. And he still has some more years left. That's what's crazy about it. So
when you knew New England won, it was a game before, and then as you're watching the Eagles game, it was basically over before it was over, so you knew the Eagles were going to go on. As a ball player, what was your first thought of when you thought, okay, the Eagles are going to play New England? You thought what about the matchup?
It's an opportunity for us to get some redemption. I mean, they beat us 13 years ago, man, and it really hurt. I still haven't gotten over that loss. I still haven't watched the game yet. It's too hard to watch it. 13 years later, I still haven't watched the Super Bowl game.
Wow.
So so hopefully, if the Eagles can go out there and pull out this win, maybe I'll go back and watch it.
Well, that'll wipe that memory out. We talked a lot as Jeremiah Trotter with us, 4-time Pro Bowl linebacker, played with the Eagles, was a member of that Super Bowl 39 team that lost to the Patriots 24-21. Philadelphia has embraced this team, and you mentioned Chris Long and the play he made on the interception by Case Keenum. It seems like this defense specifically, even the offense, like Nelson Aguilar, he had some struggles. Alshon Jeffrey was let go by the Bears. It seems like everybody on this team has a chip on their shoulder. They've embraced that with what Lane Johnson has talked about and wearing the dog masks. It seems like what this team is all about fits this city of Philadelphia almost to a T, does it not?
Yeah, just their personality. The one thing I noticed early on, they had a big win against Washington early in the season. And what I noticed early on, those guys were having fun. Doug has come in and changed the culture in the locker room. Chip Kelly did a lot of damage to this football team with the roster, and I think mentally and the trust factor. But when Doug came in, he renewed the trust between the players and the coaches. He changed the environment. He gave them he made the environment conducive to winning, and those guys are really having fun. You can see it when they're making plays after games, taking pictures, dancing, and Doug allows them to be themselves. And when you can be yourself, you can go out and just play free and just have fun. You have more fun playing the game, when you can be yourself. So that's the biggest difference I've seen since Doug has taken over. He has allowed those guys to be themselves, and he's made playing football fun again for them.
So, Jeremiah, ball players, I don't care what sport it is, are used to a season of continuity and routine over and over and over again throughout the regular season, even into the postseason. So now, really no worry for the Patriot players who are somewhat used to this. For the Eagle players, going back to when you were getting ready for a Super Bowl, what was the biggest disruption for your routine and continuity in getting ready for these 2 weeks for the Super Bowl?
I would have to say just all the attention that's put on every single thing, every single story. Everything is scrutinized. There's magnifying glasses on everything. I mean, when they're doing stories on when you were in high school or junior high, it's just the media. The media behind it is so much bigger. The scale is so much bigger that, like, we have a lot of young guys on the team. And I think a lot of those guys don't really understand what this means to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, it was 13 years ago when the Eagles went. So it's really tough to get back. So they don't really understand what it means. But I think this week when they head to Minnesota, they're going to start to see how big this thing really is. And I just hope they can just continue to be themselves, continue to stay loose, enjoy the ride, and just go out there and play free, loose, and just have fun playing the game.
Did you understand it before you took the field in Jacksonville, or did it take being there and seeing the pomp and circumstance for that to sink in for you?
I understood because when I came in my rookie year, one of the only things that were talked about is how long it's been since the Eagles made the Super Bowl. Eagles had never won the Super Bowl. You hear about the Dallas trophies, Washington trophies, the Giants trophies, and we was trying so hard to get there. It took us a while to get over that hump. And when we finally did, I understood before we went to the Super Bowl because you heard so much about, all the teams in the NFC East, and then the Eagles not having that Super Bowl championship.
The one thing I've talked to, because I never got to play in one, of guys who played in the Super Bowl was the quicker you can make it a regular game, the better off you are. How soon in that game did it become a regular game, if it did at all to you?
I think definitely on the defense side of the ball, we was pretty relaxed. We knew we had a great challenge in front of us. We knew anytime you go up against Brady and Belichick, I mean, no matter how old they get, how many times they've been back, that team would never show up complacent. They're going to always go into the game with a lot of respect for their opponents. They're going to be ready to play. So we had to make sure we were ready to play. The one thing, the biggest surprise for me going into the game was how quiet it was. It was almost like being at my son's Little League game. It was that quiet. And I guess because a lot of the fans, Super Bowl is commercial.
Right.
You get a lot of fans there that are not, their team is not playing. So I think that had a lot to do with it. But it was really, really quiet. And we could make all of our calls, all of our checks, and hear each other. And normally in the NFC Championship game against Atlanta, obviously our home crowd is trying to drown out their offense. You can't hear anything. So that was the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, we'll see if that silence plays into effect, because Minnesota certainly wouldn't have been silent had the Vikings had made it. That would have been a really loud stadium for a lot of reasons. But I have a feeling Eagle fans will be a little boisterous. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. So, Jeremiah, we appreciate you being with us. Thanks for the perspective on Philadelphia, and congrats on your amazing dodgeball career.
I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.
You
Thanks,
too. Jeremiah Trotter, the Axeman, as he was called when he played, and apparently that carried over to
dodgeball
game.
There you go.
Nicely done. Golic and Wingo here with you as we're wrapping up a Tuesday morning, dominated by a couple of things. One, the idea of free beer, which I think we can all get on board with.
Trumps everything.
Yes, it does. And two, the fact that Woj just comes in here and drops story after story.
Yes, he does.
Right? We got the issues. He used the word festering twice.
He did.
And when Woj is reporting on your team, trust me, the one word you don't want him to use is festering.
Festering's a bad word.
It's never. Yeah. It's kind of like indefinite with an injury.
Yeah. Yes.
Those are bad
Not
words.
Out for 3 weeks, but out indefinitely.
So he had a story about the issues with Kawhi Leonard and some of the people with the Spurs that the general manager said no, it's been a difficult situation, but we're all in the same. Either way, it's not great right now with Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs. And then there's the issue with the Cavs. You talked about the team meeting where, for whatever reason, Kevin Love, who was sick during that game and left early, everyone started pointing the fingers at Kevin.
Yes, they did.
And it does seem like every year in Cleveland, when it doesn't go their way, it always seems like they point towards Kevin Love.
Yes, they do.
Kevin Love is averaging essentially a double-double
Yes,
this year.
he is.
Almost 19 points and 10 boards a game. That seems to be pretty good.
Doesn't seem the way you want to point the finger.
Yet somehow, some way, it always seems to be zeroed in on Kevin Love. And they said after this meeting, Woj did, that, okay, maybe it wasn't as much Kevin as we thought. We understand whatever you told us, yada, yada, yada. But for whatever reason, it seems like there's a time in the year where the Cavs have the defensive deficiencies. They go through a lull, and at some point, they always say, well, Kevin Love.
Yep.
So we took it to the next level.
Yes, we did.
Here now, a dramatic reading, emphasis on dramatic, of that players meeting with coaches and everybody else after Saturday's loss to Oklahoma.
The Cleveland Cavaliers. Could it be their lack of defense? Too many age stars? The best player in the league having a ton of power? Or was it the obvious? Kevin Love. One of the newer members of the Cavs, Isaiah Thomas, had strong thoughts on Kevin Love's illness.
It's embarrassing. Not acceptable. We got to really look in the mirror, look at ourselves, and get some pride.
With an argument as strong as his defense, Isaiah had a point. Kevin is an embarrassment. Love defended himself.
Nuh-uh.
The team leaders, LeBron and D. Wade, were adamant that they were not the problem.
Just look at the resume, dog. That's all we ask. Two of the best shooting guards ever.
How you say that?
On the same team.
We make it work. We make it work.
An argument as airtight as the bone-to-bone contact in Derrick Rose's knees. Kevin would retort,
Nuh-uh.
as a single tear rolled down J.R. Smith's face, hurt at the reality that his friend Kevin was responsible for everything bad in his life. The phone rang. It was David Blatt.
I hope we don't give up as many points as the Cavaliers gave up last night.
Oh, boy.
That was your offspring filing that report.
That was
some heavy, intensive investigative journalism there.
Yeah, that's what he does. That's what he learned.
That is his wheelhouse.
That's exactly right.
That is his wheelhouse.
Investigative reporting. Well done, Mike Jr.
Couple of things there. By far, the best part of that whole deal was David Blatt's trolling from it the Turkish All-Star game?
How about that trolling on the amount of points the Cavs gave up?
Turkish All-Star game from out of left field. David Blatt, who seems to be, look, one of the great flaws of the English language is there aren't enough words. One of the great words of all time is a German word called Schadenfreude or Schadenfreude, however you want to pronounce it. It basically means delighting in the misery of others.
Right.
There's a lot of Schadenfreude right there from David Blatt on the Cavs.
I would say so.
Now.
So are you throwing them out? Cavaliers not making the finals?
I'd say I'm more concerned.
No, are you throwing they in or out? Right now,
I think they're out.
You're saying they're out.
I think they're out.
Right now, they're sitting third. They're one game out from Miami of being in the fourth slot, and just two from being in the fifth slot, if you want to keep going.
Yeah.
So you have them out right now.
I think it's less. It's more likely than not at this point that they will not be in.
If you had to bet any amount of money that really would affect you,
I would go against it at this point.
Okay, I'm still going for it,
as you should.
And maybe part of that is the heart in Cleveland, but I still think
we've seen them do this time and time again.
And I do understand there are greater issues in losing Kyrie. I get it, but I don't know. I just don't buy it yet because at the end of the day, you have some talent. You have talent on that team, and you have a guy named LeBron James.
Look, they've been to LeBron's teams have been to 7 straight NBA Finals. He's been to 3 straight with Cleveland. History is certainly on their side.
Yep.
But when we had Woj in here today, he just said it felt a little different this year.
That seems to be the thought process. It feels a little different than the other year. So
would it surprise me if they made it back? No.
Right.
But if you're asking me right now, I think it looks less likely than they will.
Probably still the key thing to me is Isaiah Thomas has only played 7 games. He's never going to be a defensive stalwart.
No.
I get it. But if he can get that scoring up and take some of that pressure off LeBron, that's going to help an awful lot.
All right, here's what we got coming up tomorrow. We got Joe Thomas will be here, offensive lineman for the Browns. Herm Edwards will join us, and an author who sold over 300 million books.
Wow.
In case you didn't do the math, that's a lot of books. We'll see you tomorrow on Go Local Go.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.